Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel after a long time, I think 2 years or something like that. And this is probably a much announced return to my booktube channel. I have teased with my friends and I'm really glad to be back now. I'm actually super excited to be talking about all the books that I read in January, and I had a tremendous reading month. I read 11 books. 2 of those were rereads. I read 1 arc and 1 short story, and my average score overall was 4 out of 5 stars of all the 11 books I read, so it was just incredible. And yeah, I will just get started about talking about the books that I read. So the very first book I read is Brigands and Bread Knives by Travis Baldree, which is the, I think, technically second book in the Legends and Latte story. So it's a sequel to Legends and Lattes, but there's also a third book that was a prequel, so technically the third one in the story overall. We follow Fern, who we know from the prequel book. We see Viv and Tandri again, and we also meet some new characters. The one that I liked the most was Zill. I give this 4 out of 5 stars. It was exactly what I wanted when I read it. And yeah, it was just a good time. It was cozy. It was more action-packed than the previous books, but I really enjoyed that, and I really liked the character dynamics in this of Zill, Fern, and the others. I also particularly like the horse, Bucket, because if you know me, you know that I love horses. And Bucket was just a joy to read about, and I hope that we will see Bucket return, and also some other characters of this return in future books, because I hope that Travis Baldree will keep returning to this world and writing new stories in this, because it's just, I love reading them. So that was a great start of the year for me. The next book I read was The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I actually don't own a copy. It was a book club read for this month, and it was the lowest rated book this month for me. It was 2 out of 5 stars. I knew going into it that it probably wasn't a book that I would enjoy a lot, and I ended up being correct in that assessment. I enjoyed the world building and the setting, but I couldn't have cared less about the characters. The only one that I really not even liked, but that I liked seeing the development of, was I think Victoria is her name. What was her name? It also is pretty forgettable for me, so I read this at the beginning of the month, and even now I'm already struggling to remember who the characters were. Lucia, so the main character, was utterly unlikable to me. I thought that the relationship between Lucia and Sant Angel was basically Alina and Darkling rehashed, which, yeah, I didn't enjoy as much. I then continued reading The Hobbit by J.R. Tolkien, which was actually, I was on my 4th reread of this. I love returning to the world. I am set on rereading all of the Tolkien books and the Middle-earth books this year. And I actually read this on New Year's Eve and then read into the new year with this book. And it was just a joy. I love the story about Bilbo, about the Hobbit, about the Company of Dwarves. Gandalf is comedy. A comedy king in my opinion. So this was an easy 5 out of 5 for me, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I am already looking forward to my next reread, which will definitely come in the future. Then the next book I picked up was The Strength of the Few by James Islington, which is the second book in the Hierarchy series, and much anticipated by me. I got the Broken Binding edition because I wanted the matching cover for the first book because I got the old cover for that. And I haven't turned the cover, so maybe I will in the future. I know that there were some opinions varied on this book. For me, I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. The decisions that Islington does in this book is, I don't know, for me they just worked. There were certain tropes, and I won't go into it because I don't want to discuss spoilers here, but the decisions that he makes in this book really, really worked out for me. I really enjoyed the multiple POV thing. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. I loved basically getting to know so much more. And if you've read this, you probably know what I'm hinting at, but I won't say it at this point. Maybe I'll make a discussion video about this book specifically because I have many thoughts. Yeah, so I really, really enjoyed this, and I am eagerly awaiting the next book in this series, which I hope will come out sooner rather than later. The next book I read, and I have my phone here just so that I remember. The next book I read was actually a short story that I read for, we didn't really have to read it for class, we just discussed it in class, and I had wanted to read it anyway, so I did read it, and that was The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. I gave it 4.25 stars out of 5. I really, really liked it. I liked how it slowly built and built and built and built, and then in the end you're like, oh my god, what the hell is going on? I thought it was masterfully done. I was actually reminded also, of course I know that this short story precedes the works of Shirley Jackson, but I was just vibe based. I was reminded of her work. And I really enjoyed it, and I bet I will return to it at some point in the future. It's also super short, so you basically don't have any excuse not to read it. And I definitely recommend everyone to check it out because it was an amazing short story. The next book I read is Possession by A.S. Byatt, which is who's an author who I hadn't been really familiar with, but I approached my professor to talk about my ideas for my MA thesis, and she recommended me checking out the works because this author has also written a lot of short stories. So I checked those out first, and then I basically found out what this is about, and I decided I had to read it as well. This is basically about two researchers who are doing work on Victorian poets, and then they discover, or one of them discovers, that there's a connection that no one knew about between these two Victorian poets. And it's a lot of poetry, a lot of letters, a lot of journal entries, but then also this frame narrative of the researchers researching and then getting together and kind of sharing their knowledges about these two different people. And you follow them and kind of uncover this mystery and this mysterious relationship between the two alongside the researchers. And it kind of goes back and forth. It's so multi-layered, and I really, really enjoyed it. If you know me, then you know that I love metafictionality and metafiction generally. I just think it's really, really interesting whenever stories basically talk about themselves and books reflecting on what they are, texts reflecting on what they are and what they're doing, and this is very much that. So I really, really loved it, and I can't recommend it enough. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I was actually a little shocked at how much I love it, because I had expected enjoying it, but not quite as much. So that was a very welcome surprise. And I am now planning on checking out everything by this author. Yes, probably also reading more of her stuff this year. So keep anticipating what I will think about the other ones. Right, then I had and also this was a buddy read with a friend, and I enjoyed it so much. It made it so much cooler to kind of hear or see what the other person thinks and what quotes and sentences resonated with each of us. The next book that I read was also a buddy read, and I should have mentioned before that The Hobbit and the other one's still coming up, but The Hobbit was also kind of a buddy read, and I was discussing it continuously with friends, which was great. The next one I read was The Har by David Sodergren, because I also resolved this year to read more horror and to get more into horror books. So I gave this one 2.5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was all right. It wasn't quite what I had expected. I thought if it, like, being titled The Har, I thought that it would have utilized the Har a little bit more. And basically all the horror-y elements in the book were just basically body horror and gore, which I didn't mind. I thought some parts of it were funny at some point, but that also wasn't quite what I hoped for, because I was hoping for more of an atmospheric and vibey book, but I didn't get that. Now my phone locked, so I have to unlock it again. Yeah. So it was alright. I don't regret reading it, but I also had hoped that it would have been a little bit better and to my tastes, but I have hope for future books. The next book I read was was Mulka by Monica Kim, which is about basically hidden cameras so it's set in Seoul in South Korea, and basically if you know, there's like a big societal problem of there being a lot of hidden cameras in women's restrooms, in public. Basically it's a big issue in Korea, and yeah, so this is a story about that. We follow two characters. One of them is a guy who works at a company and has installed hidden cameras in all of the women's restrooms, and basically monitors and then enjoys the films that he makes, and watching people on the toilet, which those parts of the book were a little bit hard to read at times, but I thought that the book overall was really, really great. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It is being released on April 28th. Overall, the other character that we follow, by the way, is Dahe, and she is with an influential guy who then, there's a big scandal that happens, and then the book basically takes its course. I thought that it brought up a lot of discussion points for societal issues and kind of raises awareness that this is a problem. I also thought that because this is also more leaning towards the horror-y things, I really liked the execution overall of the topic and the discussion of the topic, but then I was kind of split and torn about the ending of the book. I can definitely see what the author did there, and I don't hate it, but I also didn't love it. But I think that this is a great book that kind of opens a conversation and can be a conversation starter and then just a discussion starter. There's also discussion questions at the end of the book, so I just think I will probably get a physical copy of this as well, because I really liked it. And another one of my goals this year is to read more South Korean fiction, probably mostly translated, because my Korean isn't that great that I could read a lot of books in Korean, but we will see. The next book I read was The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien, continuing my reread. This was my third reread of this book. Whatever. Doesn't matter in the end. So I had read this multiple times before. I like that it keeps some of the whimsical tone that we have in The Hobbit as well, but of course it's also much darker and more serious. I like, I mean, I just love seeing the Fellowship assemble. I loved seeing Gandalf again. I loved seeing all the hints to the events of The Hobbit in this book. Of course, I like all the characters. I just think this story is so enjoyable, and I can't wait to continue with the Two Towers next month, probably. So this was a 4.5 out of 5 out of 5 stars. And I will probably also return to this in the future, once again. Next, I read The Deep by River Solomon and others for university, for class. I gave it 4 out of 5 points. Not points, stars. I really enjoyed it. It's basically about a certain, kind of like mermaids, a civilization that lives in the deep of the ocean and is descended from pregnant enslaved women who were tossed overboard during the crossing of the ocean, and then gave birth to this new type of entity. And it was a lot about intergenerational trauma, about memory, about individuality and collectivity. There were a lot of different themes, and this is also a fairly short book, so I hadn't really expected it to be that dense the entire time. In the afterword, I think they like a hip hop collective, I think. They also talk about, because this book was inspired by a song, and it goes kind of through the evolution of the story and how it kept building and being redone in different forms of media, which was really interesting to me. And I'll probably see if I can check out the other ones, because I always love seeing how not the same story, but aspects of the same story keep being retold, and especially if it's like a song, and then I think an instrumental song at first, and then the song with a rap song with lyrics, and then this book and the story, because I thought the world building was also really intriguing, and it also just it can start a lot of conversations, which I really liked. And then finally, this month, I read Jade City by Fonda Lee, which has been on my TBR for a long ass time. I have wanted to read this book for years, and it has been on my shelf for years, but I never picked it up. Last year I had planned to read this entire trilogy, and then I didn't, so this year I was like, okay, I definitely have to get to it now. And I picked this up, I read it, and I really, really enjoyed it. As I had expected, I give it 4.5 out of 5 stars. I am usually not one for urban fantasy or fantasy that's set in cities specifically, but I really loved seeing Janloon and the island of Kakon, and then all the characters, the different clans, the tensions and the scuffles and everything that goes on throughout the series, and then kind of the society that's based on Jade. Me also loving Guild Wars 2, the video game, the MMORPG. I was constantly reminded of Cantha and the Jade Sea in that game, which maybe I can show a picture if you don't know what that sounds what that looks like, but basically that was part of the when Shay goes to the mines. I was basically picturing the Jade Sea the entire time, and I think this book was amazing. I really enjoyed it. I really liked it, and I can't wait to continue next month with Jade War. And I'm currently taking a small break with a different book. I'm currently reading The Hunger Games, but after that I will definitely pick up Jade War and continue the series. So those were all the books that I read in January. As I said in the beginning, an incredible reading month for me. I have resolved to finally read some more books that I have on my shelves because last year I read way too many books from the library when I have more than, I think at this point, around 400 books that I own and haven't read yet. So I really have to start picking at the TBR pile. And I will continue to do so and keep you updated in the future because I plan on hopefully sticking to this and updating every now and again. So thank you very much for watching. If you're still here, please consider subscribing to my channel and liking my video. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.